Have you ever heard of the TV show One Tree Hill? It's pretty popular, and now it's reportedly a focus of the Caylee Anthony murder investigation. Investigators want to know if Kaylee's mother, Casey, took a kidnapping scenario from one of the show's storylines. Joining me now on the phone, WDBO AM reporter Drew Petrimo. Drew, thanks for being with us. This really came out of left field, that authorities found on her computer a Google search of a certain episode of this TV show where a nanny kidnaps a little girl?
Exactly. And well, when this whole case first started, they confiscated Casey Anthony's home computer, and we learned not long after that she had searched for things like chloroform, household weapons, and neck breaking. Well, now we're also learning during that same time, which was this March, she also searched for an episode of One Tree Hill. It was the 100th episode to be exact, and in that episode, the storyline goes that the nanny kidnaps the child. Now, we know that Casey Anthony's story of what happened to little Caylee was that the babysitter, Zanny Gonzalez, kidnapped her and has taken her away, and now eventually would have had to kill her because she's been found dead. So what they're trying to figure out now was that inspiration for her story that she eventually made up.
And certainly it's relevant because it could prove another element of possible premeditation if she planned it prior to Kaylee's death, if in fact she committed the crime. Obviously she's only alleged to have done that, and she is still behind bars as the case proceeds. In the meantime, the defense attorney is looking for tips. He thinks if he puts out a phone line, there will be people who will call and help him prove that Casey didn't do it. Is he looking for something specific?
He hasn't said exactly what he's looking for, just that he has, in fact, set up a new tip line, and through that tip line, he's looking for things that can prove his client to be innocent, and in fact, that is what he believes, that she is innocent.
A big question tonight. What role did the TV show One Tree Hill play in the death of Caylee Anthony? Authorities are looking very closely at one episode in particular, alleging Casey did some research on Google about a nanny kidnapping on the hit TV show. Could that be where Casey's alibi about nanny snatching came from?
What are you doing here, Nanny Carrie?
Your mom and dad said I could be with you again. Oh, I get you back. I'm so happy. Come on.
I'm not supposed to leave the church.
Jamie, you know I love you. Don't you trust me? Jamie! What? Is it Jamie? No! Jamie! Jamie! Can you lock? No, I'm really getting worried right now.
Well, let's bring in our panel. Tonight, Florida Prosecutor Pam Bondi and Criminal Defense Attorney Jeff Brown join me in Florida. Good to see you guys. And former LAPD homicide detective Mark Furman is joining us by phone. Mark, you first. They take her computer, Casey Anthony, and they probably find a ton of stuff. But if they find this episode of this show that she searched it, and there's a nanny alibi, a nanny plot line, is it relevant to an investigation?
Well, I think, Jamie, after everybody lays the investigative groundwork, I think it becomes relevant in the context of timelines and when. If that is researched at basically the same time as chloroform, as other things that she's reaching out on the internet, I think it becomes relevant. And then it becomes irrelevant if it's all by itself, because it certainly could mean something, but you're not going to be able to prove it, whether by a detective or a prosecutor.
Pam, is it admissible as a prosecutor?
Yes, Jamie, and for the reasons that Mark just said. If it fits into that timeline, this is a completely circumstantial case, and the prosecutors are going to have to lay out a very detailed timeline. Every little thing she did has to piece together to prove this crime, and I think it could have a great impact on a jury given all the other things that she researched on the internet. If it fits into that timeline, it could be very damaging to her. One more thing that's going to be very bad for Casey Anthony.
Jeff, she told a lot of tales. They followed up on every lead for a potential nanny. With this in mind, if a jury sees an episode like this, knows it's on her computer, and they know that Zanny Gonzalez does not exist, how as a defense attorney do you talk your way out of that one?
Well, I think first of all, you're going to admit that your client made some lies. She lied, and we're not convicting her, though, because she's a liar. But we don't know in what context this show is shown with others. Maybe she downloaded every episode of One Tree Hill. Maybe she's looking at a lot of different shows on there, and they're just singling in on this particular one. So we need to put it all in context. And maybe when you look at everything that's on the computer, it's not just one thing. There's a lot of shows, and you can't pick on this one in particular. But there's no doubt that in the beginning, the defense lawyer is going to have to say, listen, my client told some lies, and she's covering for somebody else that committed this crime because she didn't want any harm done to her daughter. But that's not a reason to convict her.
Mark, let me ask you, because when a prosecutor has a case like this, they often hope that they will find the remains of the deceased because there might be potential evidence, either to seal the fact that this suspect was involved or that there might be somebody else. I find it so hard to believe that they can already come to the conclusion, and this is what the coroner said, that there is no additional evidence to be derived from toxicology or otherwise that will answer any of those questions. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Jamie, you know, we've got a lot of cases that are 20, 30 years old that we said the same thing, and then lo and behold, DNA came about. So, you know, there's probably things in the work that might be able to take things to the next degree as far as the science, but let's look at what they have. The suspect in this, which is Casey Anthony, most probably kept the police and the coroner and the medical examiner from being able to determine a cause of death simply because she failed to actually tell the truth in any regard, any time. So I think it's very difficult when you have skeletal remains and you're left with whatever hair and whatever tissue is left, and then bone marrow, and if any drug isn't stored, if that particular drug or mineral or poison is not stored in the bone marrow or does not show up in the hair, or the hair is not of good enough quality, then you're kind of trapped. But it is a homicide. There's not a lot of people that die of natural causes that after death put themselves in garbage bags.